Let's see. Wonder what 7 looks like. Okay, this is your calculator for your ratio analyses. You want to do this one, or do you want to do this one, which is the
Are these the up and downs? No.
these are the LIFO and FIFO calculations and the gross profit for each. Why don't we do this one since it's complex. Complex meaning I can use this other scenario to work it out. Okay, this other spreadsheet I've already got. Okay, so on these ones, I have a pre-built Excel file, which I'll go over in general, and then I'll create a new one just so that you see how what my thinking is on this. Generally, what I'll do is I'll have this first part that just gives me the basis of what they've told me. And I create these columns called inventory in. I use quantity, price, and amount. Quantity out, which is taking the quantity times the price to come up with the amount. And then I have an ending inventory, which basically just takes these numbers and subtracts them, right? And on this last part, I have a sales amount, quantity, price, and amount, so I can figure out what the revenue is. So effectively, by doing this, creating this little spreadsheet, effectively, I can find out what the inventory purchased was, what the inventory sold was, cost of it was, what the inventory amounts are, and what the overall revenues were. And I just create this little area down here so I can work out each scenario, specific, FIFO, LIFO, and weighted average. And I just drop the numbers in. Except for the sales, it's all the same, because no matter what the cost is, the price sold is always the same. And then I just work this out, and I use this column primarily to figure out if I'm going last in, first out, then I'll go one direction, or if I'm going first in, first out, I'll go the other direction. First in, first out starts here and goes down. Last in, first out goes this direction and goes up. And all I'm doing is trying to deplete the batches of inventory from these line items as I do the sale. So this is the general context. This is the spreadsheet I've done. Now this one right here is what I did last semester in a more quicker format without all the formatting and whatnot, and I worked through it. So I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm just going to create as I go my inventory analysis, right? So that so I can show you how this kind of works out. So we have a date usually when it's in. Let me just double check something. Yeah. We have a description, just kind of keep us honest. We have usually a quantity, have a price, and we have amount. Okay. And usually I just start this out with inventory. Yeah. Inventory in. And then I just put in the formula where I'm putting quantity times price. And usually all I have to do then is they only usually give you 4 or 5 of these. And so I can start out here. Now, usually with most of these questions, I can come back over. Let's see if I can do this. Let's shorten this up a little bit and bring this over. So usually what I can do is not working. Okay. So usually what I can do is I can scrape off most of this information and drop it into my template. But because there's a big bunch of information, let's see if I can just copy this and I'll bring it over into Excel. And I may just do it in a off to the side, paste values, and then just bring the data over. Oh, hey, that worked. Let's just move these over here. So I'm going to click and drag and bring them over here. There we go. And I'll have to, let me just delete some of this. So these are at 2. This is at 3. This is at 4. And this is at 5. Equals quantity times price. Okay, so now I can just click and drag this down. So this will give me at least my inventory, and then the sales are over off to the side. So I'm just going to delete this part, and this is what was sold. And I'll use this a little bit later. Actually, just take this out, delete. And so usually this might be quantity and price and amount. And we'll just keep this all right here. So it makes it a little bit easier. Sales. This is 8, 8, and 8. And now I can just do the same formula. Equals quantity times price. And so roughly, sorry, I was just doing shift and then arrow down. Now I'm going to hit F2. It opens up the formula bar. And if I do a control enter, it just copies this whole formula all the way down. And so now I have totals, right? I can total my quantities equals sum, and I can just arrow up and then press shift and arrow up a little bit more and end. So now that I have the formula in here, I can just copy this over. We'll just copy. Sorry, I don't know how to do this without the keyboard. Paste. There we go. That'll be better. Okay, this was not right. So this is the value of purchases. This is the value of sales. Now, a rough order of magnitude, you can if you were just looking at the whole month versus the whole purchases versus sales, you'd have some starting information. After this, then you have to figure out, okay, well, what's the inventory out? And then so I'm doing this a little bit different than I usually do, but that's okay. This keeps everything nice and tidy. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these over and I'm going to paste them here. Okay, and because my screen is too small right now, let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's bring it up here where everybody can see a little bit better. And oops. Okay. So effectively, I'm going to do the same thing, equals quantity times price. I'm going to take this and copy it all down. And then just take this one, I'm going to control C, copy it, and control V, paste it. So now I've got this all set up. And then I can do ending inventory. And I got to be honest with you, I don't do this very often. So this is just like ad hoc. I'm doing this. I do this once a semester. But in my regular business life, I don't deal with this at all. So you'll hopefully appreciate that this is about as fast as I can do it. And hopefully it's about as fast as you can do it just on the fly, right? And the real thing is just to remember you got ends, you got outs, you got ending inventories, you got quantity, price, amount. If you can replicate that 4 times, you at least got some basis to start to do the evaluation, right? In Excel at least. And so same thing here, we just do that times that, and we can copy this down. And then copy this over there. So now I've got some good stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say this quantity, the ending inventory is my, because I'm just looking at batches. I'm ignoring the sales for right now because all the sales are going to be part of the out for this batch. So I'm just going to take the quantity for this batch that was in minus the quantity that goes out. And the price typically is the same. So I don't usually have this here. So that, but sorry, let's keep it there and then just make it the same as what's over here. That'll make it easier for the calculation. So let's copy that all the way down. So we have the prices of that inventory and the current ending inventory. We can just copy this down as well. Oops. All right. So theoretically, I haven't sold anything right now. I got ends, I got ending inventory, no outs. Then let's just start with FIFO. We have sales, we have cost of goods sold, and we have gross margin. I'm just going to call it GM. Okay, and we want to just create something where we say gross profit or gross margin equals the sales minus the cost. Okay, so we got a basic thing set up here. And sales is always going to be the same, so we can just make this equal to the sales amount here. And I hit F4 usually to make sure it's fixed, so that when I copy it down or copy it around, it doesn't shift on me. Okay, next actually can create this a couple different times. Now I'm doing a Control C and then Control V, and I can do this as LIFO. I can do this as weighted average, and I can do this as specific identification. Okay, so I've got a couple different ways now to just run the calcs, drop in the cost of goods sold, and I could even do an inventory ending inventory amount if I wanted to keep track of that as well for each of these. Okay. So first in, first out, right? Now, if we're doing this on a perpetual basis, it's going to be a little bit different. I think this asks for, what is this? Seedlings, current year purchases. What is it asking? Using a periodic basis. Okay. So that means we're going to look at the end of the month and then we're going to do it. A perpetual basis would mean that we would just look at it after, at the point of each sale. But periodic, we're going to look at the whole month. So we know we sold 578 units, right? So now we have to subtract 578 going on this one, first in, first out. So inventory out. Did I do this as a negative? I did. Okay. So inventory out, I'm first going to take out 220 of those 578. And while I'm here, I want to make sure I copy this over here. Sorry. Copy and copy. I have all my totals. Okay. So I've taken out 220. I'm going to take out 354 and I got 4 left. Right? So I'm going to take out 4 from here. So I've got 578 out, which is the same as the sales, starting from the first, going to the last. And this price out, we're going to keep as the same here. Make sure I do that. So this should be my cost of goods now. So I can take this 1518, make that the cost of goods sold, unless with a gross margin of 3106 and an ending inventory of 1524. Theoretically. Now, if I do it the other direction, I'm going to just take this out. All the other numbers stay the same, right? Because my sales stay the same, my beginning stays the same. So now I'm just trying to figure out from a LIFO standpoint, what do I have to do? So in this case, and I'm gonna go from here backwards, right? Last in, first out. So I'm gonna take this one out first and go backwards. So now I got 92 that's coming out. I got 270 that's coming out. I'm at 362. And, you know, just for grins, I'm going to do 354 while I'm over, right? So I might have a little checkpoint here, make it a little easy for me. So I can do equals this minus that. That'll tell me how allocated I am or how much I need to reduce it by or add to. So then I can say, okay, well, 354, I need to take out 138. to make it match. So now I know that 216 is in this number, 270, right? So that's what I'm left with. And so my cost of goods on this is 2188, and my ending inventory is 854. Now, weighted average is kind of interesting because we really don't need to do any of this. So usually what I'll do is run some calcs here. I'm just simplifying this. So my weighted average in terms of cost equals the amount divided by the units. That's my cost per unit, right? So if I sold 578, then I can simply do 578 units times my cost per unit. And then I'll come up with that. And so my ending inventory then, this is a little trick. How do I want to show this? So then on this one, ending inventory is not going to be that. We're going to take this all out. So it's this 578 times the 325 is what's coming out. So let's just do 578 times 325, same calculation as I did here, right? So then I can just do that minus that. So my ending inventory should be 11635. Now, specific identification is going to say something to the order of. Let's see, did they ask for that in this one? They didn't, but I'm just gonna carry through. Let's just say they said something like this. 100 units from the January 1 purchase.
Okay.
They did, let's say, 300 units from the February 14th purchase and purchase. And let's say they said that this says 4, let's say 90 units from the November. I'm doing this a little bit out of order, but just to make a point, 19th purchase. So that makes us 490. So we need another 70, 88. It's 88 units from the June 30 purchase. Although this is looking at it on an annual basis now that I'm looking at this. But anyway, so then what I do is just basically note that here, 100 out of that one, 300 out of this one, 90 out of this one, and 88 out of this one, right? So now I've got everything distributed. I've got 1,900 in cost of goods, and I've got 1142 in my inventory. So it may take you a little time to get this set up, right, and working for you, but it makes these 4 different evaluations almost instantaneous. All you got to do is worry about which direction you're going in terms of relieving the inventory. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now if I were to check my figures, see if I actually got this right. Wrong one. Let's see if we can move this over here. And let's pull up where are we at? Right here. Okay, so ending inventory under FIFO, 1524, cost of goods, 1518. Not too shabby. Under LIFO, 854 is our ending inventory, and our cost of goods is 2188. And then for each of these, you have all the components, right? So sales 4624, which is the same for LIFO and FIFO. Your cost of goods sold is 15 and 2188, and your gross profit is 3106 and 2436. Believe me, I did not practice this.
You're just that good.
No, I'm not that good either. It's just the approach, right? So this is a standard approach that I find works well in being able to work through these different valuations, because one, you set up the structure in Excel, and then all you have to do is just work through the mechanics of how to relieve the inventory from each of the batches, first in, first out, or last in, first out.
Mhm.
And when you do this, then you have all your answers for you right in Excel, and you can carry them over into the problem depending on what they're asking for. And these are generally, these four components are what they're going to be looking for in each problem.
Last week when they did that financial, I think it was in the financial analysis section, but we had to come up with, I think, the gross profit each one. And
Yeah.
I did it on one and it worked out the first one, whatever A or whatever they had. And I
Yeah.
did the same criteria on the two or three others, and they kept coming up wrong. And I was doing the exact same thing. So I thought, I wonder if they went and changed the problem, but didn't change the answer or something, because I kept going and the first one was like, this is exactly how I calculated and it's right. But all the others, there were three I missed because doing that same calculation didn't come up. But I'm sure there was probably an error of what I was doing. I just could not figure it out. I finally just gave up because
Oh, do you
I
remember which
just
one it
was trying.
was?
It was in that financial analysis. I think it was fill in the blanks
This was
part
in week 8.
last week at the very end assignment. But by that time,